In the wake of last week's failed attempt to blow up a plane from the Netherlands bound for Detroit, carry-on crackdowns are underway, especially in Canada. There, at least for now, carry-ons are mostly forbidden on U.S.-bound airliners. They're also being screened and double-screened all across America. In many cases, they're swabbed for explosive residue and passengers are patted down or put through body scanners that the feds are scrambling to put in many more airports. And who's overseeing all this? TSA and Customs and Border Protection are both without permanent leaders. Confirmation votes are being held up in the Senate, but we have late word that Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid will try to force a vote on the TSA nominee, Errol Southers, in the next few weeks. Now I want to get some insights from Larry Johnson. He's a terrorism analyst and business consultant who used to work in the Office of Counterterrorism at the U.S. State Department. We spoke to him yesterday by phone. He joins me live from D.C. Larry, good to see you.
Hi, Carol.
All right, first of all, Canada saying no more carry-on baggage. Is that really an effective answer to all of this? And could we start to see that in the United States?
It's a Band-Aid on the sucking chest wound. I mean, what the Canadians are admitting is they have no effective system in place for detecting the possibility of somebody bringing explosives on board a plane. And what's so disturbing about this is we've known for 15 years about this threat. Let's recall that it took 13 years for the United States to react to bags with explosives and to finally put in place a system to check bags that are checked into the body of the plane for explosives. That finally came into effect in 2001, 13 years after the bombing of Pan Am 103. Here, we had December of '94. Ramzi Youssef took components on board a plane, built the bomb, left the bomb under the seat, got off the plane, it detonated in the air. He was doing this as a test run to blow up 12 jumbo jets. So we've known about this for that time. And so Canada's gesture then, it's one that'll probably last 3 or 4 weeks, and then they'll go back to business as usual. And the unfortunate thing is, what we need to do is start putting in place existing technologies that we have that are both trace detectors and bulk detectors, and then move the effort, advance it to start really developing a comprehensive technological solution, because that's our only hope in the long run.
Interesting that you say that, trace and bulk detectors, because I had a chance to talk to a man last hour. We were calling him Tony because his work doesn't want him identified, but he used to work for the TSA, the DHS, and also the FAA, and he said exactly what you just said. He said that is the answer to prevent, for the most part, our best chances at least, because of course nothing's 100%, but this is the way to prevent bomb-making materials to get on board an aircraft. Take a listen to what he told me. I want to get your response.
Knowing what I know from the outside, since Richard Reid in 2001, 8 years ago, there is not adequate screening using the technology which is currently available on passengers coming into this country on inbound flights. TSA, at least until very recently, has been very reluctant to take much care or notice of security on flights coming inbound, not going at all beyond what was in place before Richard Reid. Richard Reid showed that we needed some way of screening incoming passengers for trace residues of explosives. This could easily have been done by equipment that is deployed all over the United States now, but we do not require it on such equipment to be used on passengers coming in from overseas.
And that's my question. Why do we not require this type of equipment for passengers coming into this country from overseas? We have, and you refer to this in this very extensive report that you put together, these chemical detectors in more than a dozen airports in the United States. Why don't we have that internationally?
Yeah, those chemical detectors, I believe, are in more than 100 airports in the United States. They could be deployed internationally. There's a few countries that have done it on their own, which is fine, but we should be requiring that on all flights coming into this country. And you'll have to ask the TSA why they haven't done this for 8 years, let alone for the last year or two. We got another tip-off in August 2006 when a plot to do the same thing, to bring explosives aboard aircraft on flights coming into the U.S. from London, was discovered. And then again, people reminded TSA you should use screening overseas on flights coming in. And they do inspections, they do standard x-rays, they do pat-downs, but they don't use this very well-known, functioning, relatively inexpensive and easy-to-operate system, which is all over this country. The TSA, informally, I have heard leadership talk about how difficult it is to get other countries to agree to such measures. I do not think this is true, because they agree to many other measures which are far more intrusive.
So, Larry, two questions. Our research here at CNN says it's more than a dozen airports have this technology and use this technology. However, Tony is telling me no, there's 100 airports that have it. So does that mean there are airports that have these detectors and they're just not using them?
Yes, I mean, there's no requirement to use it. So it's, it's human nature kicks in. If you're not required to do something, you don't. I flew 2 weeks ago from Cairo to JFK, direct flight on Delta Airlines. There was no screening of the shoes. You know, in the United States, you have to take your shoes off. For inbound flight, they don't do any checking of the shoes to find out if do you have anything unusual in the sole that might possibly be an explosive. So what we have is a lack of still a lack of standardization across the board. There's some of it within the United States where the federal security directors in the various airports, they impose different standards. For example, at one place, if you're a woman and you have you're wearing like a shirt over an undershirt, they may require you to take it off, and then at another airport, they won't. That's sort of minor. But when you go overseas, the United States is in a position to require any air carrier flying into the United States to adopt very specific measures of security, and TSA hasn't, and really there's no excuse for it except incompetence.
Interesting, incompetence, because Tony mentioned that TSA is reluctant. Why should the TSA be reluctant about anything when they're in charge of our security?
Well, because security, a lot of times, you wind up being the Rodney Dangerfield. You get no respect, you get beat up, you get pressure. Security is bad news. Whenever you see the security director at an airline coming through the door, he's not telling you how you're going to save money and in fact, increase your bottom line. He's bringing you costs because security involves costs and personnel and equipment. But it's one of those things that's necessary. This is one of those few areas where you have a genuine, or you should have a genuine partnership between the federal government and the commercial sector. And it is the federal government has a clear role to play in ensuring that the security is done properly in order to keep people safe. Because just one or two airlines start going down with explosives, it is going to have a dramatic negative economic impact on this country that will then affect other people who don't even fly.
Mary Schiavo, former Inspector General of the Transportation Department, also told me last hour, we've got the money. It's politics that's holding everything up. Take a listen to what she told me.
Yeah.
We've been relying on profiling since 1988. This equipment will stop them. It will stop all known explosives used by terrorists. So I don't want to say it's 100% effective, because you could always mix something on the plane that isn't detected by this equipment. But for the known explosives used by terrorists today, this equipment is 100% effective. We just have to put it in place, and then that will stop them. Senator Domin is from our home state of South Carolina, and there are many political interests at front, but this is too important. The same thing happened when I left. The Inspector General job was open for several months because it got bogged down in political issues. This is not an issue of politics. This is law enforcement. And when we treat it like law enforcement, just as Tony says, we give the equipment to the cops on the beat, except this case, the cops are the TSA agents. And that's how we have to treat it. We do not let politics come into law enforcement in this country, nor should we ever.
But it is. We don't have the head of a TSA. We've got these chemical detection systems all across airports here in the United States. And by law, we are able to tell airports overseas that they need to assure us that they're doing proper security measures. And none of that is happening. What's wrong with this, Larry?
Well, because we've gone... These incidents are few and far between. If you look at the attempts to put explosives on board planes successfully, there's been, I think, a total of 5 incidents worldwide since 1994. And so what happens is they argue, well, it's a low risk, low threat. But unfortunately,
but Larry, when it happens, look at how devastating it is. 9/11 happened one time, but my God, that changed our entire, all of our lives and our world and politics and you name it. I mean, why do we have to look at this as, oh, it only happens once in a while? It's like totally devaluing life.
Well, I agree. We shouldn't look at it this way because for commercial airlines, they can't afford a 90% success rate. They have to be 100% successful in protecting those aircraft and ensuring that they're mechanically sound, as well as that no threat item gets introduced on board. And, you know, frankly, the Bush administration still needs to answer what they did some very good things in strengthening TSA, putting official trained people at those checkpoints and requiring checked baggage to be detected to be interrogated for explosives. But why didn't they do that at the passenger checkpoint? So, you know, you got Francis Townsend on the air with you and Tom Ridge. We ought to ask him, why didn't you do that? I mean, what was the reason? Because from a strictly technical standpoint of aviation security, there's absolutely no reason that should not have been done.
Larry Johnson, great talking to you. Thanks again for your time today. You bet.